Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Malifaux, and finally I found a game against McCabe. It's been a long time coming, and what's more, I'm facing Skit Happens, one of my very favourite players to face, as we just have such interesting games. And I really enjoyed this one, and hopefully you will too. We're back on this Eastern themed board, even more appropriate tonight, and I don't think Big Trouble in Little China is too cliché to use at this point. For terrain, we've got high to million, impassable hardcover buildings dotted around the place. Soft cover, height 1, severe but you can't push through it, bushes. Same but hard cover, dinky little walls, hard cover bridges, height 2 in the middle, doesn't really matter in the end. And then we've got these hard cover, impassable torii, I think they're called. A traditional Japanese gate, most commonly found at the entrance to a Shinto shrine. Look at Malifaux teaching me culture. Oh, and finally, these little houses, I haven't worked out what they're called yet. We made hazardous terrain with a 1-inch aura around them. Just for a bit of fun, I always like to have hazardous terrain on the board, and there's one in either one of our deployment zones. And I'm really kicking myself for not making better use of these. But before we get to that, I demanded that my opponent place his models first, and so we have got a Dawn Serpent, a Performer, McCabe, with strange metal shirt, glowing saber, and promises. In front of him, the real Shenlong, the Shadow Emissary, with Conflux of Exploration, Kei Matachi, or however you pronounce that, Monk of Low River, and Izamu the Genbu. What do they call these things? Kappa? On fire with the knowledge tonight. And he's got the Peaceful Waters upgrade. For my deployment, I've got Toshiro with Command the Graves. Soul Porter, Punk, Zombie. I've forgotten my own model's name. The Carrion Emissary with Ancestral Conflux. Yanlo. And I've got him in what I affectionately call Beast Mode with Brutal Karaoke, Necrotic Preparation, and Unnerving Aura. He wants to go in hard this game. Next to Yan is my freshly painted Sun Qiang. Super excited to get some games in with this guy, and Goryo. My primary plan for this game is to see what Sun Qiang can do. So I want to get him in the centre, peonizing everything, hopefully making them slow, and my opponent tends to take Claim Jump, or at least some kind of marker dropping scheme, and I'm hoping Sun Qiang will do some disrupting of that. As he's got Don't Mind Me, I'm going to be doing the Recover Evidence thing, and I'm hoping Yanlo's transferring of AP will help me grab some extra ones. Between the Toshiro and the Emissary, I'm hopeful I can summon some models and pick up my numbers throughout the game, and just help with outmuscling the centre, guarding markers, picking up markers, that kind of thing. I reckon Eliminate the Leadership shouldn't be too hard to do on McCabe, so that's my second one. So hopefully I can spend the first couple of turns lightning dancing stuff out of the middle, just helping me control it a bit more. Sending Izamu to stand by my Ignores Armor Goryo, other stuff to stand by the Punk Zombie, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold many models back to make Recover Evidence difficult, but if there are some strays, then hopefully Yan might be able to lightning dance them into the thick of it. Let's see how it goes. Turn 1, we're giving the lucky black deck a break and bringing out the cream one, which tends not to be as lucky. But that's not a bad hand, it's kind of middle of the road, which I tend to find isn't great for Yan. Yan wants extremes, like, some really low cards to ditch, and then some really high cards to get stuff done with. But hey ho, it's not as though much is going to happen in the first turn, right? So the Shadow Emissary goes, attaches the badge of speed, and I try to keep up with where these upgrades are going, but I think towards the end of the game I just give up. I'll try to tell you where they're going, but unlike McCabe, I can't make any promises. So then he uses his Rite of Strength on Izamu, pushing him forwards, and then I think gives Izamu the badge of speed, which I believe allows him to nimble. The Emissary is also given Izamu fast, and I sort of see where this is going, and I don't really know the timings or the sequence order. But to me it looks like Izamu can nimble, walk, and then possibly get a charge on something when he goes next. And that's probably not terrible, as he would be very exposed, unless he has the red joker, which, spoilers, my opponent does, as it's possible he might be able to hit Yan low. But anyway, I decided to go a bit earlier with the Emissary than I intended, put him up, put up the shards so that Izamu just can't fit through this gap, and then go defensive. The plan is to make Izamu make him waste AP either going around this way toward where Toshiro will be. I don't really like the idea of him going up against Toshiro, but I'll be able to lightning dance him away if that's where he ends up. Or force him to spend some time climbing over fences going around here and towards where my Goryo will be. And maybe he'll get a couple of whacks on the Goryo, but I'm hopeful it will survive. I know he can ignore Incorporeal, but he needs a trigger and I'm prepared to take the risk. So it looks like Wonder Weasel's going, pushing stuff around. Goryo walks up behind the house, so dropping a Seishin first. McCabe goes, gives Reactivate to the Dawn Serpent, gives, I think, Strange Metal Shirt to the Monk. I think he takes back the Badge of Speed from Izamu and then gives it to him again, does a bit of a steeplechase jump over this fence. And with the pushes, he's just trying to position Izamu to get within attack range. Looks like Soul Porter has pushed Toshiro up over here, which was probably not a good move. And then I pushed Yanlo up as well. I'm sort of angling to be able to get to Lightning Dance Izamu with the idea of pulling him into my crew, killing him, which will allow me to concentrate my efforts on getting McCabe off his horse. But I really hadn't thought this through very carefully. I mean, either Izamu doesn't go before I do the Lightning Dance and then he's in the middle of my crew with all his AP to pretty much decimate it, or I wait till after he goes and he's not going to be there anymore, is he? Dawn Serpent comes forward over to here, and what with all the pushing Izamu was doing not coming over this way, and now the Dawn Serpent taking this flank, it's certain that he's going to go for the Goryo. So I walk back into range with Toshiro, make the Punk Zombie fast and push it, and then walk back up over here, just out of charge range of the Dawn Serpent. I really wanted to be walking him across this bridge, but now that I've made this hazardous terrain, I'm not so inclined to do that, as its 1-inch aura extends onto the bridge. So Genbu charges in on the Goryo, which Sunshang did heal back up to full, but Genbu uses the Red Joker to ensure he gets the Ignore Incorporeal trigger, and demolishes the thing with AP to spare. I was worried he was just going to walk away behind this building, out of line of sight, which would have made him a real nuisance next turn, but instead my opponent decides to drop a scheme marker, pretty much telling me he's doing claim jump. And so Yan Lo goes. Luckily he got Chi when the Goryo died, because I used my 11 of masks to push and make fast my zombie, so my hand is pretty shitty. Well, not shitty, but mediocre. We Lightning Dance Genbu, going out over here, which unfortunately means my Punk Zombie is out of range, and so I'm forced to transfer him to the Carrion Emissary, right into the middle of my guys, and particularly my squishy, extremely valuable Sun Qiang. So it's less than ideal. I think it took me 2 attempts to get this to work because Izamu was benefiting from promises. So I've now got 1 AP left, and I have to decide whether or not I'm going to try Lightning Dancing him again, putting him over here by the Punk Zombie, or maybe by the Seishin, if that's in range. Probably will be. But I've not got any cards really, and if I fail this, then I'm just stuck out over here. So I decide not to risk it, walk back over here to be in range of the Emissary and attach Ash Ascendant, making my Emissary fast. Dawn Serpent charges in on my Emissary, and despite it being defensive, it does 8 wounds and 4 poison to my Emissary, and that sucks. Something of a big deal, that. So it's up to my Punk Zombie to save some face. I ditch my last card for a flurry, and he goes for it. And he's been seriously sharpening that sword, because he brings Teenage Mutant Ninja Izamu down to his last wound, despite having to chomp through armor 2. Good zombie. So at the end of the turn, my Emissary dies. I've got Izamu and a Dawn Serpent right up in my face. I basically haven't left my deployment zone, and I'm down to quite hefty models. I'm in, as they say, a bit of a pickle. So with turn 2 being quite important, I pull a solid hand and lose the initiative. Somewhat aware of his predicament, Genbu goes first, attacks the Punk Zombie, misses it, and then spends his next 2 AP healing himself. So I think he's back up on 5 wounds now. So whilst I'm pretty sure I can kill him this turn, it's going to take a bit of effort. Now that Izamu's gone and I'm not really feeling too pressed to do anything major, I go with the zombie and attack the Dawn Serpent, doing nothing. McCabe then charges the zombie, mostly just to get into position and sadistically beat things up whilst he does it. He pulls in various upgrades and then starts throwing them back out. So the Monk's got the Strange Metal Shirt, Dawn Serpent's got the Glowing Saber. I'm pretty sure he got Black Flash as well for Reactivate, that might be what that is. And the Emissary gets the Badge of Speed. So shit pushes up, and I decide to go Yan Lo. I have to attach Spirit Ascendant at the start of the turn, or his activation, in order to get through all this terrain and walk through the house. So then I don't have it when trying to have any chi when I try to use my Lightning Dance. And what I was thinking here was to get to the Dawn Serpent, ping it off over here, open up this flank a bit for Toshiro to come in. Now that I've seen how dangerous this frickin' thing is, and now it's got the sword, it's going to go through Toshiro like butter. Then I don't know what I was going to do with the other AP, maybe Lightning Dance something else. It wasn't well thought out, and I probably should have either tried to kill Azamu, kill the monk, or just run over here and picked up the marker. But as it is, I end Yanlo's activation doing literally fuck all. But with this monk being so close, I'm starting to get worried that it's going to leap the hedge and start healing Azamu. I presume it can heal shit. So it's time for him to go, and zombie! Flurries the motherfucker, doing minimum damage, moderate damage, severe damage, cutting the rogue turtle down. And it looks like my opponent didn't take his passing blow attack. Not passing blow, warrior's death, you know what I mean. Not sure why. It could have been he forgot, or it could have been pity. Despite the fact that Yanlo has positives to disengaging strikes and will do some damage if he succeeds, the monk just casually strolls away and drops a scheme marker. Slightly miffed that the Peaceful Waters on Azamu is gone. But at this point it's more of a first world problem, and oh my goodness, I'm so sick of failing disengaging strikes with Yanlo's crew. So what's happening here? Toshiro walks up and tries to top deck her summon off this corpse marker, hitting a solid one of masks. Not the most optimal move that. And the Dawn Serpent then goes... I didn't choose to hit the Dawn Serpent because I figured I wasn't going to do any damage, it wasn't going to instantly heal up. Nibbles Toshiro for a little bit of damage and a huge amount of poison. Soul Porter floats up and dinks Toshiro, which were within 6 of the centre. Gotta love the Soul Porter. Dawn Serpent goes again, nibbling Toshiro more, putting him on a huge stack of poison. More than his remaining wounds, in fact, by quite a lot. Sun Qiang now has to go, and I move up and put up his Peon Aura. The hedge sadly slowed me from getting quite as far into his crew as I wanted to, and actually forced me to get into engagement with the Dawn Serpent, which was annoying. I think I'm out of cards, so I had to top deck that, and it worked, but unfortunately I couldn't top deck the discard the scheme marker over here. Can't have all the luck. The performer then goes and tries to pseudo-expunge Toshiro. I hadn't seen that coming, I'd completely forgotten they were going to do that. So yeah, I think he's got like 2 wounds and 6 poison. He's not going to survive this. But he wins the duel, and sticks around with us for another turn. And so at the end of the turn things look like this. I have 3 scoring models within 6 of the centre. My opponent has 3. I can't see where the Kemotachi is. It's probably behind this building, but it's in there. He made sure not to put the performer within 4 inches of Sun. So we both score for extraction, the marker stays where it is, and the Thunders score claim jump. But things remain not looking great for Yan. So at the start of next turn we both reveal recover evidence. Blue marker's the one that I've got to get, these white ones are the ones he's got to get. And shout out for these markers, these are kind of like laminated paper or plastic or something, which he can write on and rub off really easy. Really good idea. As I only have 5 models left, there's not really much choice about where I'm placing them. The Thunders don't have much more choice, but they're a bit of a spoil sport and don't put one by the dragon thing. Turn 3, there's the hand, can't complain. Sort of important initiative flip, and I get it. My opponent's soul stoned, and we ended up reflecting like twice, but it still went to me. Really gutting when that happens. For my opponent at least. And I go to Toshiro before I lose him. I summon an Ashigaru from the corpse marker. I make it fast, cancelling out its slow, and then I take a pot shot at the Shadow Emissary, not doing anything. McCabe activates with the glowing saber, makes short work of my Ashigaru, but it took her a couple of AP at least. He might have cycled his upgrades around, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure the performer has reactivate. And then he red jokers Sun Qiang with extreme prejudice. And this is something of an issue I see with Sun Qiang. I don't think it's a problem, because I think it's quite well balanced. But this guy is a VP scoring and denying god. But to make use of his abilities, he's got to be played pretty central. Or at least you're certainly very incentivized to play him quite central, as his abilities will affect lots of models at once. His pushing, when things take damage, is much more useful when he's kind of central and can make better sure that he can go in a favourable direction. Dropping a card in Yanlo's crew is a big deal. That is a big resource to be spending, and I'm not going to do it if it's going to push him off in, you know, the wrong direction. But given that, his defenses literally come down to defense 7, and he's got a chassis that's one of these defense 7 low wound specialist flanking models. So he can deflect a little bit of pressure, but can't take, you know, the pressure associated with a central position, especially given the price tag on his head. So I really like him. I think he's very well balanced, but he's going to take a lot of skill to learn to use, I think. Xian's had about all he can stand, and he can't stand no more. With the death of Sun Qiang, he's up on 3 chi. And my intention is just to have a bit of fun, attach Bone Ascendant, and spend the rest of the game on a rampage doing Yanlo's Big Mad Dance. But my subconscious won't let me throw away this game quite yet, and before I realise what I'm doing, I'm lightning dancing the Dawn Serpent to go stand by the Punk Zombie, which was just exactly in range. And actually that was a bit of a feature of this game, where without pre-measuring quite as diligently as I should have, several things were in range to do important things at important times, although not always. And I think on the first turn, when Izamu was over here, and potentially looking like he might die, we found he was exactly within range for McCabe to whisk back his upgrade. What can I say? We're players with a good eye. So again, debating the Ascension and then the Humpo Assault into the middle of these guys, which might not have been terrible. I Lightning Dance the Shadow Emissary, get it, place it over here by the Soul Porter in hazardous terrain within exactly 2 inches of the zombie. And because hazardous terrain is the nadir of Skit Happens, the Emissary takes 4 damage. I don't know why we bother even flipping these things. And finally, with his last AP, I pick up some Recover Evidence, using my 0 action to heal Toshiro for health. And that was why I didn't Humpo Assault. So quite unexpectedly, Toshiro might survive the turn. The Performer goes, puts down a marker, and then as Toshiro is on 5 wounds and 5 poison, she tries to sip of wine him successfully, but I use my last remaining Soulstone, I think. I can't remember how many Soulstones I've used at this point, but it's either my last one or I'm low, to prevent just enough damage that he will survive the turn, on 1 wound, I believe. Punk Zombie then flurries on the Shadow Emissary, bringing it to its last wound, with a sickening amount of damage. The Soul Porter prods it off the table, and then shifts Yanlo, again, pretty much just in range, shifting Yanlo to block the marker, and be in base contact with another evidence marker, and engaging all these dudes. My opponent very gallantly told me when I originally moved him over here that I had blocked line of sight to my Soul Porter and was standing right next to a guy that could remove conditions. So, you know, the old man a bit bashfully shuffled back across so that I could maintain line of sight to the Porter. None of this really mattered because the Wonder Weasel then pushed McCabe forward to block line of sight, ran round to try to take the last wound off Toshiro, but Toshiro red jokered and survived, and the Weasel took a couple of damage from Yanlo's aura for its trouble. The monk tried to strip Yanlo of his chi and failed, and then just walked over here, again taking some more damage. Although I think he had the armour, so it wasn't so bad. At the end of the turn, things looked like this. Both of us score extraction. McCabe gobbled up one of my evidences after Sun Qiang's death, and I've got another evidence, and I think I've blocked Claim Jump. The zombie succumbs to its poison after its savaging at the hands of the Dawn Serpent, but as it's done about 31 damage before armour this game, I think it can go back to the grave in peace. No complaints there. Go to turn 4. I lose the initiative sadly, and Toshiro finally goes down to McCabe. He takes in his upgrades, pushes things around, gives out some more upgrades. I think it's the same thing as usual. This thing's got the sword, the monk's got armour, the performer's got reactivate and nimble, I think, and the badger speed. Various things have been pushed into this area. I think the performer was over here. And so I go with Yanlo, ascend to Bone Ascendant, Humpo Assault into the middle of all these guys. Had a little debate over whether Yanlo should have to go through the manipulative of the performer. I thought he would, as I'm taking an attack action against her, and she is a target. My opponent thought I wouldn't have to, because she wasn't the target of my Humpo Assault action. I'm really not sure on the ruling for that, so if you know, please put it down in the comments with a reference. But for this turn we play it with the manipulative, and next turn we play it without the manipulative, just to kind of average things out. So I go around clockwise, basically trying to draw out cards before going for the real target, McCabe. I miss the performer. I think I do 4 damage to the Dawn Serpent, which it cares 0 about. I have to hit my own Soul Porter, but with the positive flip for the Yan Lo, I can easily just make sure that misses. And then I hit McCabe, who's at defense 7 because he's got these two of my guys engaging him, and so I completely miss, despite burning through my high cards. I think I kept hold of the red joker, but yeah, that really drained my hand and I got nothing for it. Really missing that emissary, not gonna lie, and really regretting not just going to pick up more evidence. But hey, I think that was the right decision at least. So at the end of the turn things look like this. Soul Porter has heroically survived the Dawn Serpent but failed to do anything to McCabe. Keimatachi pushed the performer around so she could drop lots of scheme markers, and then she reactivated trying to make the Soul Porter sip some wine, but turns out he's teetotal. And the monk went over here and claimed some more evidence. So the Thunders score lots of points and the Resurrectionists get nothing. Turn 5, I've held onto the Red Joker for one final attempt to take McCabe off his horse. Looks like I lose initiative again. McCabe goes, kills the Soul Porter. He has actually generated 2 or 3 Soul Stones this game, but has been spending them for suits. And I think he does something like that now. Tries to spread around his upgrades. Black Jokers, but I mean it doesn't matter that much. And now I've got to decide, do I go for the safe play, which is to Hunpo Assault and grab another evidence, or do I go for Glory? The answer is obvious. I think McCabe did a little bit of damage to Yan Lo, so he took some in return. Oh, and I should mention Yan Lo hasn't quite reached half health yet, but he took a relatively big hit from something early on in the game, which the Seishin sacrificed itself to heal up a little bit of damage from. I think it was the Shadow Emissary attacking him when he was over here by the building. But so anyway, we Humpo Assault in. In a perfect world, the plan is to kill the Keimatachi so that he can't do any pushing stuff, kill the performer so that can't go away and score any more markers, and then Red Joker McCabe to death. And I've put myself in base contact with this evidence marker so that I can pick it up, forgetting that McCabe's just going to come back when he dies and stop me from interacting. So we do the rodeo, trying to draw out cards. I draw out decent cards, so it means I can't hit the Keimatachi. I fail to kill the performer or even touch her. And finally, I'm forced to use the Red Joker to actually hit McCabe, then go in with a severe, and then with my final AP manage to hit him and take him off his horse. Scoring 2 points for eliminating the leadership, and I think that's about as good as I could have done. And so then it's all the Thunders left to go, and they drop 2 scheme markers and pick up some evidence. And that's it, guys. That is the end of the game. Final scores: the Thunders got 4 points for extraction, 3 points for claim jump, and 3 points for recover evidence. The Resurrectionists got 2 points for extraction, 2 points for eliminate the leadership, and 1 point for recover evidence, making this game 10-5 to McCabe. Cracking game. I really had a lot of fun playing this. Turn 1 went just so horribly. Losing the Goryo was disappointing, but I was prepared to make that sacrifice. Yan Lo struggled through, doing the bare minimum. And oh my goodness, losing the emissary, that hurt a lot. Really needed him to help shut down all the pushes my opponent was getting, deal out some damage and keep the corpses coming for Toshiro. Keep Yan Lo's melee up for his humpoing. Yeah, really, that was a great alpha strike by my opponent. Turn 2, oh my goodness, Yan sucks so hard. And this is the things, I think Lightning Dance is such a powerful ability. But it's not automatic, especially if you position yourself badly and then can't make the most of your chi. And sometimes Yan's actions just don't work, and you end up just sitting like a duck, taking 6 or so damage from a casting attack. And then you flub here, and then largely here, although I can't complain about killing McCabe version 1. But when it works like a dream. I'm so happy with this turn. Take important models out of where they need to be. Backfield Punk Zombie is great, except for when you're doing recover evidence and all your markers are in your backfield. And that is another thing I find with Yan. You got to play just really well to get the setup that you need, and sometimes even then, the way the game plays out, it can end up being a little bit helpful to your opponent. But yeah, otherwise, really liked this, and Punk Zombie of Doom, kicking asses and taking names. Definitely going to run one of these again. Toshiro's long, slow walk around the side was definitely not good play. I'd intended him and the emissary to team up a bit, but I really needed him around the Punk Zombie and the Goryo, shielded by my crew a bit so I could really get his summoning going, giving out fast and plus flips and all that good stuff. Yeah, didn't use him well. Sun Chiang I spoke about, but yeah, really like him, but he's definitely a finesse model, and it's going to take a lot more practice, I think, to get decent use out of him. And what can I say, first time meeting McCabe, and was definitely very impressed by all the pushes the guy can give out. His crew is definitely no slouch either, really impressed by the Dawn Serpent. Morning is going to give him a little bit of consideration, I think, with the new Wave 5 upgrades, although I don't know if he really brings quite enough to justify the 10 stone slot in Reses. But with 10 wounds, hard to kill, and there being so many things with casting attacks around these days, this is a model you've got to send something quite serious at and one-turn it. Definitely dangerous in a McCabe crew. So that was the game. Many thanks to my opponent. I hope we'll face again soon. And with that, I leave you. Take care.